Hello book friends and potential book enemies. Let's talk about books. Hi, my name's Elizabeth and I'm a book buyer and a bookseller and a book reader, but today we're talking about books that I have read and want to read and have acquired because we're doing a book tag. This is the Midyear Freakout book tag. I will link the original creator and all the questions below. As every year I say, it is not something to freak out about, and I take umbrage with the freak out in the name of the tag, but whatever. Let's just proceed anyway. So far this year, and we're talking up until the end of June because it's the halfway mark book tag, I have read 38 books, which is a year on from last year, so much better. I am definitely in a better reading space this year because I'm in a better headspace this year, and because I hang out with books all day, I'm just really hype to get them into my brain. That is what is happening. I'm just in a good book environment, and so I have read so many books this year. My goal is always 52 and I'm on 38, so I'm smashing that. However, I am less well ahead on my less publicized, less official goal of trying to read at least 25% nonfiction over the course of the year. I am on 15% nonfiction, and so I need to be bumping that up slightly. A lot of that comes from just reading short fiction books for work as part of needing to know what is inside the books I'm selling, but also because I often listen to nonfiction, and the audiobook that I've got going is fiction at the moment. But I am reading a nonfiction book right now, and hopefully that will get my percentage up a bit higher. Doesn't matter if I don't hit that goal. No, it's just about me feeling smug that I live on both sides of the library, not just the made up side. I have had 2 5-star reads this year, which you know that I don't give 5 stars on the first date, so it's really rare that you'll come across a 5-star read from me. And that's why I don't talk about my star ratings here when I do reviews, because it's arbitrary and subjective. I was going to say objective. No, the opposite of that. It's subjective. So when it's a 5-star read, it means that I cannot stop thinking about it. And usually I give that on the second date. So one of my 5 stars was a reread. That is Nemesis Games by James S.A. Corey. That's in the Expanse series. And the other one we'll talk about, my most read author this year so far, is James S.A. Corey, because I'm doing a reread of The Expanse's buddy reads on Storygraph, which is so much fun. And so I've been rereading those, obviously, but also James S.A. Corey had another book come out this year in their Captives War series called The Faith of Beasts. So there's a new one in there as well, but mostly that James S.A. Corey is rereads. I've so far read 9 translated works, which is huge for me. I've really got into my translated fiction this year. It's lovely and weird, and I'm enjoying lovely and weird. 5 of my reads have been rereads, which is not just The Expanse, but mostly. And 5 of my reads have been buddy reads. Not all of those have been The Expanse, but a lot of them have. And so now the tag questions. The best book that I've read so far in 2026, I don't own a copy of, and that is London Falling by Radden Keefe. The whole title is London Falling, A Mysterious Death in a Gilded City and a Family Search for Truth. I don't think I've reviewed this yet, but if you haven't seen it, please go and look up the blurb. It sounds amazing. It is the story of a young man named Zach, who one night in the middle of London went over the side of a balcony and into the Thames and died. And his parents, trying to understand how he came to go over the balcony, there were security cameras that picked up the actions of this young man as he, in the last minutes and seconds of his life. And his parents trying to investigate what happened and understand, because the police weren't really helping. And eventually they turned to this journalist, Radden Keefe. He hears of the story, and they come together to investigate this story, which delves into the Russian mafia and how Zach, the young man who went over the side of the building, was impersonating the son of a Russian oligarch, and how that backfired. And basically, it's not about Zach, although he is, of course, the pivot story and what happened and how the things that happened to him happened. But it's about London and the way that London has been infiltrated by this money from Russia, and the impacts of that money on the way that London works, the different layers of society and power, and who gets away with what, and what the police can or can't or won't do about any of it. Very fascinating. I will review it more in depth when I get to that in my reviews videos. Even if you're not interested in true crime, and it's technically true crime, it is a fascinating, powerful, compelling read, and I have sold so many copies at work because I cannot stop talking about it. The second question is the best sequel that you've read in 2026. Did I say 2025 before? The best sequel that you've read so far. And for me, that is What Stalks the Deep by T. Kingfisher. This is the third in their Swan Soldier trilogy, which started out with What Moves the Dead, which was a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. And so we're sticking with the same main character who's now travelled to America at the request of somebody who was in a previous story. Weird things are happening. Let's investigate. And this one, no spoilers, but involves a cave. Check out that cover, by the way. Isn't that pretty? I love it so much. Anyway, these are horror, technically. Horror things happen, but in a cozy way. I guess I don't feel the sense of peril for my beloved characters, even though they are in danger. I don't feel the peril, and so I find them cozy reads, and they are lovely. Question 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to, and that for me is There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum, I think is how we pronounce the author's pseudonym. This sounds amazing. It is. I started the first chapter and I was absolutely hooked, but I'm waiting for another copy to come in at work so that I can buy it and read it with my eyeballs. It is about I don't know if it's a government agency or a private agency, but they're in charge of anti-memetics. So if you think of memes that are ideas that spread rapidly, anti-memes consume ideas. And There Is No Anti-Memetics Division is about the Anti-Memetics Division who investigates and researches and tries to contain the anti-memes and how they work upon humans. It's very X-Files kind of situation, and honestly, I am hooked. I am so excited to pick up that book and start reading it. Part of a series of fan fiction written in a particular world, and that is still available to read, but then this published edition has had all that redacted and changed to make it, not infringing on anybody's copyright when it's published. And so, it is available for free, but I want to read this version that I started. My most anticipated read for the second half of the year is Robert Jackson Bennett's A Trade of Blood, which is the third of the Anna and Din series. I wonder, does it have a name? The Shadow of the Leviathan is the name of the trilogy, and I think it's only going to be 3. And I've spoken about Anna and Din before. I will link those reviews, but I love them. They're a detective duo in a fantasy world. And in the second book, we got more into the politics and the power and where the power comes from. And so I reckon in the third, we're going to move up the echelons of power and see what's what, and probably undermine it. And I love that. I'm so excited. Also coming in the second half of the year that I have on pre-order is a book by Emily Wilson about, I think it's called Crossing the Wine Dark Sea, and it's about translating classics. Emily Wilson translated the Iliad and the Odyssey, which has been getting some traction lately, and some negative traction lately, because she is a woman who translated the classics and is being criticised for the choices that she made. And what else do I have on pre-order? The new China Mieville. What is that called? It is called The Rouse. I don't know anything about it except I saw China Mieville and I insta pre-ordered that. My biggest disappointment so far was this book, which I bought mainly for cover vibes. And then I was speaking to a book friend and they said, that's on my TBR, so we read it together. And it was a massive disappointment because it is all vibes. I mean, there is plot, but the characterization of everybody was terrible. And so even though it's a trilogy, I have no intention of reading further because I didn't care. I didn't care. And also by the end, the people that we were hanging out with the most were dead. No thanks. But like, isn't that cover the one? You would pick that up. And honestly, this was in contention for my prettiest book of the year. And it is pretty, but the insides, not so much. This is The Bell in the Lake by Lars Mitting. It's translated from Norwegian by Deborah Dawkin, and it is a historical family saga. I didn't realize it was family saga or I would not have picked it up. The trilogy is called The Sister Bells in English and Hekni in Norwegian. Hekni is the name of the family. So that's disappointing, but anyway, it ticks off a buddy read, it ticks off a translated fiction, it scratches the itch of wanting to know what's inside, and we move on. The next question is your biggest surprise read. And I'm sorry to tell you, but Dungeon Crawler Carl is actually so good. I didn't want it to be good because I didn't want the hype to be real. Somehow the book talk girlies, and I hate saying girlies, but you know who I mean, the book talkers and the bookstagrammers have gone the pipeline of ACOTAR, Fourth Wing, Red Rising, Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I wanted to understand why. So I'm kind of disappointed that it was so good. I will talk about this more when I review it, but safe to say, if you are on the fence, have a look. If you subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, it's still part of Kindle Unlimited on Amazon if you are willing to give Amazon your money, so you can taste it for free, and so, which means it's also in the Audible Premium catalogue as well. I was mainly surprised about, I knew it was funny and some parts try too hard to be funny, but overall it is amusing. It's the only book that made me laugh out loud this year. And it has a surprising depth to it as well. Carl, our titular Carl, is in a video game or Dungeons and Dragons kind of game, but he's actually there. He's actually fighting for his life against actual monsters and monstrous creatures, but they are also alive and sentient and can speak and have thoughts and feelings. And the choices that Carl has to make, and then of course has to live with those decisions because he survived, gives the book a depth that I didn't know that it had, and that's the part that surprised me. So anyway, Dungeon Crawler Carl is my most surprising book of the year so far. Next question is your favourite new author or new to you. Now, I don't really have a favourite on the list of things that I've read this year, but Patrick Radden Keefe, who wrote Falling London, has written some other books. One about who are they? A powerful family in America, and one about the Troubles in Ireland, and is a person to read. And I've had many conversations with many people saying if you love London Falling, read Say Nothing, which is the one about the Troubles. And I started it and I think I needed to be in a more robust headspace to read that book at the time. So Patrick Radden Keefe is someone whose work I will look at. I will look at all of his back catalogue. But I think because he tackles unflinchingly hard things, I have to be prepared for that. So Patrick Radden Keefe is the answer to this question. We'll get there eventually. But I haven't read any more because of those reasons. But definitely I want to, because those conversations I've been having of if you like this, you will definitely like that. I want to be able to speak with some authority in that topic. Question 8 is your fictional crush. I don't do that, so we'll skip that. And question 9 is my new favourite character, and I don't. So let's move on. Question 10 is a book that made you cry, and there's 2 on this list. The first one is Anna Karenina. Now, this is a spoiler for a book that's over 150 years old, so block your ears if you don't want to hear it. But our titular Anna Karenina throws herself under a train. And when she does that, we are in her headspace. We're in her POV. That was hard. That was so hard. And I cried the ugly tears. And luckily, I wasn't doing anything like driving my car because that hurt. And you have to slog through all of this to get to the point where you are sad when Anna takes her life, but you understand why. So, thanks Tolstoy. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, obviously. And then Richard Osman's The Last Devil to Die, which might surprise you. I have filmed a review of this, but I don't know if it's gone up yet. But again, spoilers, there's a character in here who chooses to die with dignity. On the other hand, a book that made me happy was Fugitive Telemetry by Martha Wells. This is in the Murderbot series. What number is this? Number 6 of Murderbot. It came out in 2021, but I only just read it this year because there was a new Murderbot this year and I wanted to catch up. This one is our favorite security unit, Murderbot, living and working on, is it Federation Station? Federation Platform? What's it called? Preservation Station. And Murderbot works with the security team to solve the murder. And it's basically a detective procedural solve the mystery kind of book, which you know I love. But it's with Murderbot, who I also love. So that made me happy to have a straightforward detective mystery story. Because the books after this go back. This one's back in time. So the books the one that came before this and the 2 that come after this one are all in a sequence of events that happen after this book. So this one was just a nice little self-contained story and I had a grand old time. The most beautiful book I've bought or received so far this year, this one I've bought all of these actually, we've talked about this one. This is The Haunted Wood, A History of Childhood Reading by Sam Leith. Now, look at that cover. I'll get nice and close. We love gold foil. The image is gorgeous. There is a nice clean white spine, which I love, I love. The back is all just praise for the book. I am a sucker for a white spine, white cardboard book. That's all I got to say about that. The insides were good too, but just take a moment to bask. Question 13 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And again, I don't like the phrasing of this question. You don't need to read any books, but ones that I do want to read by the end of this year are On the Calculation of Volume 3. These could also be contenders for prettiest book. On the Calculation of Volume 3 and 4. I just finished 2. These are by Solveig Bali. I will look up how to pronounce that. I will need to. Both of these are translated by Sophia Hersey Smith and Jennifer Russell, from Danish originally. I'm not looking at the back of number 4. I don't want spoilers, but they're definitely on my list. I am enjoying this series immensely. And a book that I bought last year and still haven't looked at is The Witcher, Crossroads of Ravens by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is a prequel in the Witcher world, and I love Geralt. I actually really like Sapkowski's writing, his wry humour. It's an Eastern European thing, I'm sure. I'm into it. And so I want to read that. I have one more Witcher book in the sequence to read and then get to this one. But I love hanging out here, so I want that. Do I have to read it this year? No. And the last question is my favorite book community member, and that is you. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for the community. And I have a lot of fun talking about books with you guys, and in my DMs and in my job and in my real life and in Buddy Reads, and I appreciate all of you. Please tag yourself if you want to answer these questions. Answer them in the comments, answer them in your blog post, make a video, put it on Instagram, like whatever. Just tag me so I can see. And we will chat again about books really soon.